Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are, my beautiful, wonderful creatives and wondering creatives. I would like to invite you to join me while I clean my very disheveled, messy studio and share with you my journey of how I gained and grew my resilience in my creative practice. This is something that you can use in your own everyday life, and you don't have to be a creative person in the same sense I am. You can be a musician, you can be someone who literally has never considered themselves to be creative, but it could give you some kind of insight and understanding that you can use. Side note, my husband is very enthusiastically cooking ribs, very excited for dinner today. So if you hear any banging and clattering, that's him. Also, there is a very enthusiastic busker outside of the window at this time of the day, every single day. And no matter how well I shut my window, you might hear him. I am currently working on getting better equipment, like a microphone with a noise cancelling system. And I always try to use my headphones that are noise cancelling as much as possible. So let's begin. My journey with resilience is a long and a complicated one. I was born in a female-dominant household where feelings and emotions were viewed as weakness. And it took me a very long time to build up courage to ask for help when I needed it the most from someone I trusted. And it didn't turn out for me so well. I misjudged the person's character, and my situation was very volatile. It's probably why I saw that person as a lifeline at the time. And before that moment, I used to think that I was resilient. I would fight through the stress, headaches, migraines, and tears, any challenges that came my way, not realizing I was perpetually pushing myself past burnout and burying myself into deep depression. There were a lot of other life events happening at the time that I won't get into here, but when I finally got to a good place where I could feel like I could begin to heal, I started to build up my resilience in small ways. Getting out of bed, learning how to breathe through panic attacks, and being present with my body on daily occasions. Forcing myself to get out of the house for walks and mechanically cooking in bulk to make sure at least that I won't take up energy for the rest of the week doing exactly that every single day. Finding yoga with Adrian on YouTube. This was back in 2016-17, and showing up on the mat, even if I just lay there and didn't do a single thing. And over time it got easier. It got easier as I became more consistent in self-care and being more productive in my mental and physical health and relearning emotional maturity and regulation. Something that was never taught to myself and many others in my generation. I got to know who I really am, and I started honoring that. It's really dusty in here, and my nose keeps watering about halfway through cleaning, and yeah, it's been quite a journey with building up resilience and, you know, rewiring and rethinking, gaining new insights and understandings of what it takes to be resilient, how much or how big rather is your limit. And it's really important to know what your limits are. It's important to know the cues that your body gives you, and reactions and behavioral responses you have towards people and in certain environments, to know whether you're close to a burnout or not. And it takes a long time to learn that sometimes, especially if you're not particularly self-aware in your body. I know that some people find it difficult to realize that something is affecting them physiologically. For example, for me it's temperature, and then I get really grumpy and anxious and angry for no reason, until I realize it's the temperature that my body is responding to, and it's translating into anxiety and a huge discomfort. So yeah, knowing your physiological triggers, emotional triggers, the amount of time you can actually work without feeling like you're going to go crazy or being close to burnout, it's really important. I used to get burnt out about every week, just learning about it, and I would think, oh, I'm okay, I don't see anything out of the norm, my emotions are pretty okay, but they weren't. I just didn't connect certain things mentally to my body, and it was a mess. So yes, resilience means you have to be consistent with certain things, but you also need to know your limits. So while I'm taking this little break, I'm going to break it down for you, the mental, emotional, physical resilience, and the tips that I have to share with you. But first, please click that like button, subscribe, and share with others who you feel that would benefit from these videos, from me sharing my creative journey and using and implementing mental health into my everyday artistic practice, the kind of mental healing that also supports your emotional and spiritual self, especially for those who have very huge trauma around creativity, when you're told you know it's a waste of time, you know, art or music or acting or singing or dancing is just a hobby, and literally just minimized those things for you, making you give up those very special parts of yourself, those things that speak to your heart and soul. So the first one is body. If you, like I said, someone who doesn't know your bodily cues, I would go for a checklist, a mental checklist to assess this. So for example, am I sweating? That's an indication of being too hot. Are my feet or hands really cold? That's my indication of being cold. Do I feel really weird and empty? Like, you know, when you feel hungry, some people don't have hunger cues, but you feel like quite hollow on the inside. Do I need to use the bathroom? Have I used the bathroom? Have I drank enough water today? Maybe I should stop and drink some water. Have I eaten in a while? Maybe I should have a snack, kind of thing. For emotional, it is being honest and self-aware of yourself, and also knowing your boundaries with people, and what you're willing and wishing to take on. If you are the kind of person who is a people pleaser and always says yes to things, maybe consider saying no more often, because your health is much more important than those people. And when you give your time so much to others, you don't leave any for yourself. So you need to put yourself first. And saying no is part of building resilience and boundaries. And of course, reinforcing the no when people try to push it, because it is your right. You have a right to say no and not have to explain yourself. Okay, but the last one was and is mental resilience. And mental resilience is being aware how you respond to certain things. So being mentally aware of your personal triggers and responding to them in a healthy way, which would usually be, instead of reacting, you pause, or if you begin to react, you catch yourself and then you respond after thinking. Learning how to do that in itself is building resilience. And it took me quite a few years, especially if it's something that you're not used to and you have a lot of triggers, and for example, PTSD, CPTSD, etc. Some things we can't control, and that's okay. But as the years and as time goes on, noticing yourself and catching yourself and having the self-control to stop yourself is resilience, is evidence of resilience. It's also how you choose to speak to someone, and understanding that you cannot control people, you cannot judge without being judged, and you cannot really manipulate the result. So having a certain level of acceptance and being where you are is important. In artistic practices, resilience would be something that I started doing and training myself on Instagram about half a year ago. In March, I had my first live, and it was 30 minutes of me just talking about being an accountability buddy for myself and others, and sharing my artistic practices, as well as reinforcing the 5-minute rule, because the 5-minute rule is literally just 5 minutes of your day. You can find it and you can make it. I strongly believe that it is your choice. Everyone has a choice, and when you say maybe, I don't know, it's usually a no. And if you say, if you give some kind of an excuse, it's also a no. And instead of giving excuses and saying maybes and I don't knows, it's better to be honest with yourself and others, to express that I do not have a capacity with this right now, and I have other priorities and responsibilities taking up my time and attention. And simply knowing that about yourself gives you a huge advantage over others, because you don't have to explain yourself, you don't have to be apologetic, and you can own your truth respectfully without stepping on anyone's toes, because you only speak for yourself. Alright, I'm gonna carry on cleaning, I'm gonna carry on talking, because I haven't finished the whole Instagram live kind of story yet. Basically, what the point of the story is that I started with one day, and then I would increase the duration of the Instagram lives that I do, like 1 hour to 30 minutes. And what I mean by duration is, from one day it was 3 days, then it was 5 days, and it was 7 days. And it was a part of it was getting over myself. So building resilience with being and feeling exposed and being seen, and and then we have a resilience of showing up consistently. So the whole consistency practice goes into play here. And with the consistency practice, it's essentially just doing with what you're comfortable with doing until you start feeling that resistance. And the key here is to just push yourself enough through that resistance, and then stop and give yourself a break until you feel comfortable to do that again and increase the duration a bit more. Now with the 5-minute rule, that happens naturally, because you'll by just showing up and forcing yourself to sit for 5 minutes and be present with your creative practice, you build that muscle, and before motivation comes action and actually showing up. So a lot of people misunderstand that inspiration comes before motivation, and motivation has to come before inspiration, and before motivation there has to be action. And before action, there has to be movement. And movement is literally just moving your body, moving around, getting yourself in motion, like getting out of bed. That's the first step. But yeah, when I was doing these lives on the 7-day live, I took my knowledge as I'm sharing with you now, and what inspires me, what I love, what helps me, and support others in the same way, in the way that I had to learn a lot over time for myself without any support. So yeah, the resilience part was kicking and screaming inside and still showing up and talking to the audience and saying, okay, it was really hard for me to get here, but I'm happy, and that's my little win. I'm going to celebrate and feel good about that, because I didn't let that part of me chicken out, and I stayed long enough to know that I made some kind of progress. And if I wasn't in the mood to do any proper artwork, I would concentrate on my mental health. And when I concentrate on my mental health, it's more about doodling, more about accepting and creating bad art in the moment and being okay with it and making something good out of it. So if you're interested, check out my Instagram. I could add specific links to certain live reels that I've mentioned, and you can use them as an accountability buddy kind of a course. I actually have a PDF with the links in them. If it's something that you're interested in, just send me an email on at expandingartspace@gmail.com and I will respond to it. Just write the mini accountability 7 gentle steps program. Write me a short email, say hello, and I'll have to send it to you. It's actually free. It's a very short PDF with all the links to all my lives that I've done, or at least the 7-day live, where you can find it easily and just stay for as long as you want. Maximum 5 minutes. So there you go.